simulation test mode. Okay, so at the time of the crash, how old? Okay, how old Jolene was at the time of the crash? What his occupation? Occupation and okay, what was the cause of the plane crash? Okay, what happened to the plane? What happened to the plane? Okay, which of the following did not help to slow her fall? Did not help uh, her fall, or which of the following injuries did she sustain? Injuries did she sustain? What helped her to survive? What was the biggest threat to her survival? Biggest threat? How long was she lost in the jungle? Okay, how she finally rescued? Rescued Dispute, okay. Our other survivors of the crash were found in the jungle. Other survivors. Line was upset when she revisited the crash site. Wings of Hope is the name of the given to memorial statue. Okay, Line suffered nightmares for many years as a result of her experience. Nightmares. Okay, so how old she was at the time of the crash. So my wings of hope. Okay. Uh, okay, an 18 story of an 18 years old girl. The sole surviving jungle. 29 years later, and jungle was Joline. Okay, now 46 years old biologist, and she old biologist. So what is her occupation now? Biologist. And how old she was at the time? An 18 years old girl, no more than one word or a number. So how old she was? 18-year-old girl. 18, no more than word or a number. Okay, 18. Biologist. What was the cause of the plane crash? Okay, what happened to the plane? Mm, Nice. Uh, flight day. So when Kate and wearing the she had worn the plan wearing just one shoe. She sat off through the jungle. She was walking from she also plays the game and Yes, no, not given. If the system agrees with the views of the writer, okay, not given, possible to say what the writer thinks about. So list of words. Okay. There are more words than you will need to fill the gaps for centuries. Map makers have been trying to convert the three-dimensional information as a correctly example as possible into two-dimensional plane. Okay, each method of ايش نشوف 4 centuries إبراهيم 4 centuries 4 centuries. Uh, two-dimensional representation, um, three-dimensional information without making the assumption the argument between concern. With two-dimensional representation silent projection, and reliable fidelity of access and off. Okay, so for 4 centuries. Led development of 16th century navigators used uh, that can survive this day many okay many books and maps. Um, ancient um, 200 6th century 4th century. Um, and then countryside. Um, and things. So indicates the true north and south. Indicates the true north and south. Indicates the true north and south. Cylindrical projection. Cylindrical projection. Cylindrical projection. Uh, action. Cylindrical projection. Cylindrical projection indicates true north and south, known as fidelity, but misrepresents the relative size of countries. And then country size and shapes more correctly, but do not require the compromise. The lines of left and to be planned fidelity facts in judge north and south. North and south, east and west so easily. Most of us, however, did not notice these projections were different from assumed all maps were simply factual statements. Okay, makes so Mercator projection. Mercator projection has survived so long since the dragon projection have appeared. Now Mercator makes Europe seems longer than it is. The countries so the angel fidelity of angels only achieved because on the way get from a quarter and quarter apart, you have more horizontal lines of continuity or disease and increase in the size of countries underneath them. So by the time you get the north or south poles of the lines would be drawn very can be represented all since they would have unitedly large. More importantly, the relative size of intermediate areas are completely distorted. South America seems smaller than Europe. In fact, we're in size. Scale and shape. Okay. Given such defects, it is something that has survived so long, especially those in the more project appear one of the best known of these at the York projection of which attempt to present country sizes and shapes more correctly, but to do so required a compromise. The lines of altitude and longitude band fidelity of axis had thus been lost, and you could no longer judge north-south. In the greatest accuracy, okay, must distort the position of the quarter more accurately presents country shapes and size which accurately represents country shapes and sizes. So this is Atiyov. Atiyov. One of the best known of the is the Atiyov projection. That is in lecture with different grammatical without we assume pronouns were simply factual statements. So accurately presents country sizes. So Atiyov, this is Atiyov, this is A. Okay, 45 degrees. 45 degrees. Okay, they are the 45 degrees. So Peter's projection 45 this is Peter's Louis Ibrahim Peter's projection and Mhm. There is membership and the sharing activity notes and the eligibility where the job intending and the further south and dissertation. Australia has tells away Dr. Peters decided that minimum dissertation should occur not in the quarter but at the 45. So maintains greatest occurs at 45 degrees latitude as they're much more populated areas. However, uh, so core not the quarter but the share of Africa conjunction in center of 10. So beta's map. So this is beta's map. B maximum dissertation at the poles. Maximum dissertation at the poles. So minimum the dissertation at the pole for the north or south. Uh, make European seem larger than it is. Makes Europe seem larger than it is. I mean, smaller than Europe. So this is seems smaller than Europe, whereas in fact it is twice the size. Areas are completely sorted. Silent intermediate area. The rejection. Nothing added. Save the little angel. Okay. North and south now immediately before the can be presented at all times the world they infinitely large. Arctic Antarctic region infinitely large. At the bottom there is a position of a quarter. So that South America seems smaller than Europe. So makes Europe seems larger than it is. So mark it up. This is um, market projection. So makes Europe seems larger. Europe seems larger than America. South America seems smaller than Europe. Smaller than Europe. Smaller than Europe. Smaller than Europe. Okay, so this is B. Fidelity of angel. This is B. B is Atiyov. B is at you. This is marketer, gentleman, village in the northwest, more or less, northwest, northwest, more or less, Brazil is the southwest of the Liberia, southwest. Say fidelity of Angel. And the Angel that achieve the code. You get further away you get from the equator, the further apart you have to move the horizontal lines of latitude. As these distances increases, so do the size. Be drawn infinitely far apart from intermediate areas and completely sorted. South America seems smaller than Europe, where it has, in fact, it is twice the size. See changes in scale dissolve border the size and shape the countries, giving such defects. America has been surviving and losing of line objection. So B, this is B. This is B. Okay, okay, okay. Uh, the main point made by the writer of this article that we need to understand maps, understand map making, understand that maps are not objective, understand the importance of latitude and longitude. Okay, so here for 4 centuries, three-dimensional, two-dimensional plane. Uh, mm, mm, Okay, so among the world expressive point of view, a correct middle of the earth is a sphere, or an ellipsoid to precise. Photographs of the earth from space provide comforting reassurance on the point if you wish to know the relative positions of the continents and the oceans. You should go out and buy yourself a globe and spin it out. But a globe cannot be pinned to a wall or printed in a book. For that, you need two-dimensional representation. Okay, map makers have been trying to convert three-dimensional information as accurately example as possible into two-dimensional plane. However, each method of involves a compromise. Okay. Uh, without making certain assumptions, the arguments between the photographs mostly concern those assumptions should be the simplest two-dimensional representation, a cylindrical projection, what you get by wrapping a sheet of paper around the globe, assembly this indicates through north and south New Venezuela, and it appears the way map on it is and West similarly are also integrated correctly such a moment demonstrates which is called fidelity of axis. So fidelity of axis method of involves a compromise. One of the cylindrical projection was named the 16th century navigators. Here had the Flemish mathematician produces view on the world. Okay, Carmine translated merchant in English, American in Latin, and Americator projection survives to this day in many books and maps. Okay, molecular projection of the world shows. Okay, so method of method of projection involves a compromise. Method of projection. Method of projection. Perspective estimate, axis, change models, compare direction. Method of projection. Projection. Method of projection. Okay, method of projection involves a compromise. Thus, a cylindrical projection indicates true north cylindrical projection. Okay, okay. So, method of projection. Indicates the true north and south known as the fidelity of axis. Fidelity of axis. Okay. So, cylindrical, so fidelity of axis, but misrepresents the relative size of countries. So, okay, to avoid this distortion, other cartographers rounded the lines of latitude and longitude. Dr. Peters, lines of longitude. Um, First word, present a first word. Okay. So Dr. Peters. Dr. Peters. Hence, lines compromise. Uh, to do so require the compromise. Each method of projection involves a compromise. We say some compromise. Okay, cylindrical projection. But after that, they avoid this distortion. After getting around the lines of had to be banned. Fidelity of axis had to be lost, and you no longer judge north or south. Dr. felt that such maps Dr. Peters felt such maps presented the first world. Like different assumed okay. In the maps he saw widely published, particularly by the survivor communicator, which he argued gave a view of the world. So first word, what first word? Erotic view. First word view. Judge estimate. Euro give a Eurocentric view, centric view. So change projection, first the world projection, the distances, angel maps, perspective. So, okay, first world perspective. His map with equal area projection enables us to the size of one country when another. So, betas. Uh, the even the good self this in the map which appeared has equal area projection that so no country is given prominence over another, so enables us to the size of one country to another, has equal area projection so that no country is given prominence over another, plus fidelity of access to avoid disorienting effect of bent lines of bus fidelity. Okay, his map was equal with equal area projection enables us to the size of one country to another, so no country is given prominence over another. So prominence is given, no country is given prominence over another. So enable us to change model distances, angel perspective accurately judge, the size of one country with another, judge prominence, okay, compare, this is compare. Maximum distortion at the poles. Missed most distorts the position of the equator. Okay, so the so development conditions, most of these are around the quarter and expands richer conditions later. Even the quarter is shown two-thirds of the way down traditional marketer map. So most distorts the position of the quarter, distorts maximum distortion at the poles. Not occur should occur not at the quarter but at the beta. The minimum distortion should not occur at the quarter but at the 55 populated area. Okay, so Peter's projection, understand the maps are not objective, understand map making, understand maps, and the importance of latitude and longitude. Not objective, understand maps. Okay. So maximum distortion at the poles. Most is the position as most distorts this most distorts the position of the quarter. Beta should occur not at the quarter. So maximum. So this is beta's projection. This is B. And maximum distortion at the poles. So where is Mercator? Mercator Adiyov, Mercator and Adiyov. Mm, Further away you get from the equator, the further apart you have to move the horizontal lines of length. As the distances increase, so do the sizes from the countries underneath them. So by the time you get the north or south poles, the lines would be drawn infinitely far apart from Arctic and can be presented infinitely large. Size of intermediate areas are completely distorted. At the poles. So maximum distortion at the poles. This is Maricator. This is Maricator. Okay. Ati of projection, Peter's projection. So P is Maricator, Ati of Maricator, and Ati of projection. One of the best the of projection is attempt to present the country sizes and shapes more correctly, but to do so require the compromise the lines of the longitude and attitude had to be bent. Fidelity of axis had thus been lost, and you could no longer judge north, south, east, west so easily. Most of us, however, did not notice how these projections were different and assumed all maps were simply factual statements. So at you, this is what no longer lines of latitude and longitude had to be bent. Had to be bent. So this is C. C. Peter's projection. Uh, centric view of the world is rank the developing countries, since most of these are around the equator. Rank the developing countries. 45. No. Centric view of the world. So maybe Peter's is this one is C. Peter Atiyov is Peter's is C, and Atiyov projection is Atiyov projection combines had to be banned. Okay, fidelity of axis had thus been lost. Fidelity of axis. Two-dimensional, where you get wrapping a sheet of paper around the globe and simply transferring the information across. This means indicates true north and south. So new formula is directly north of New Zealand. It appears the way a map east or west is similar indicated correctly. Such a map demonstrates what is called fidelity of axis. So fidelity of axis, something like this, fidelity of axis. Which one is fidelity of axis? Uh, so in Atio, fidelity of axis had been thus lost and could not no longer judge north south. So fidelity of axis, Atio not C. Atio is not C. Atio is so a compromise had to be banned. Fidelity of axis, okay, east west so easily. Most of us, however, did not notice these projections, so this is ATU. ATU. East, west. So it might be D. This is maybe D. Okay, okay. So this one, okay, okay. And part one, 18 biology storm, okay, parachute, concussion, knowledge of the jungle, string ray, 10. Okay, she reached some campsite. The other survivor were found in the jungle. No, because she was sole survivor. Jolene was upset when she revisited the crash site. Not given. Ring of Hope is the name, given name. The memory city, yes, okay, not given. Jolene suffer nightmares, not given. Okay, this one not given. Forms of framework of web, this is B, drag line silk, or more realistic is capture silk. Okay, allow period to drop. This is a drag line. Stand 900A, silk of Bombyx Mori. Strong silk is B, drag line silk. Okay. So all spider secret silk not given. Artificial genes for spider silk have been produced. Yes, spider silk protein occurs naturally in goat. No, not naturally. China is leading research. There is not given China. Spider silk is now being produced commercially. Yes. Okay. Main problem protection of synthetic fibers pollution. Three disadvantages: natural losing, reducing, and shrinkage. Proportion the clothing from natural 60%. Okay, 60%. Here method, each method of projection involves a compromise, thus a cylindrical projection in the case through north and south. Cylindric is known as fidelity of axis, but misrepresents the relative size of countries, relative size of country. Okay, fidelity of axis. Uh, countries, okay. So, the first word perspective, his equal projection enables us to compare the size of one country with another. Okay. Okay. So, the main point made by the writer is that we need to understand maps, understand map making. Understand that maps are not objective. Understand the importance of longitude and latitude. Understand map making. Okay, map making. Mercator projection, this is okay. Peter's projection, this is C. Atio projection is D. Mercator projection is B. B. Okay. Makes Europe seems larger than it is. Mercator projection, maximum distortion, course 54. This is B. Peter's projection. Okay. Okay. So submit. 7. Okay. 7. All of the here is correct. This is not 12 is no. 12 is no. 12, 12, 12. 12 is no. Jolene was upset when she revisited the crash site. This is no. Why? Because upset. Finally back to the jungle, she sits in the same seat. Faithful, she is dispassionate and unemotional. So the upset when she revisited the after skimming, we noticed the last paragraph is that, however, this meaning is correct. So is no. Okay, this is no. And here there is 21 is no. 21. 21 is no instead of yes. 21 is no. Artificial genes for spider silk have been produced. So this is 21 is no. Why? Uh, Competing to spin the first artificial spider silk, a job that requires to have been produced, competing to spin. Search groups all over the world are competing to spin. So this is no. Okay, this is no. Uh, and there is another one is no instead of yes. 24, 24. 24 is no. 24 is no. Spider silk is now being produced commercially. This is also no. Is now being so last paragraph are motivated by both practical and economic potential of generating artificial spider silk. They are seeking a better than natural alternative fiber for the major market. So we can find this in the what is motivated are seeking artificial so the alternative fiber for them since they are seeking searching for it. It's not being produced at the moment. So this is no. Okay, this is no. No instead of yes. Pollution is shrinkage 60. Okay. And the third projection axis perspective compare B. So B. Uh, B. And there is 35 instead. Most B, and this is beaters or makrator. So most distorts the position of the quarter. 35 is 35 is explain. 35 is most distorts the position of the quarter. To make it work, it's the further away you get from the quarter, most distorts the position of the quarter. So the further away you get from the quarter, the further apart you have to move the horizontal lines of latitude. Horizontal lines of latitude. So most distorts the position of the quarter. So this is what this is and okay instead of A B A, so B 37 is B. Okay, Mercator projection is B. Okay, and at your projection is C. At your projection is C. At your projection is C. ATO 38, one of the best known of these ATO projection was attempt to represent country sizes and shapes more correctly, but to do so required a compromise. The lines of latitude and longitude had to be banned. Fidelity of axis had thus been lost, and you could no longer judge north, south, east. Okay, so had to the lines of latitude and longitude had to be banned. So Over passage, finding after looking diagram, there are some details. The lines of duty had to be pan skimming, considering all information. We can conclude is C. ATO projection is C, and Peter's projection is A. Peter projection is A. This one is A. Why Peter is A? Either projection is A, where Africa appears exceptionally long and thin on Peter's map. So, Dr. Biza decided the minimum distortion visual format 45 as this is what 39. Shrinks Gordon and Gordon. Peter's map is appear projection that entry with the effects of void dissonance. So 39. In the Bungan sense, this quarter expands richer can be sense they lay further north, even the quarter lives two-thirds of the way down the traditional Mercator map. 39. Not 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So also our projection distort to some extent. It is clear Africa appears exceptionally long and thin to Peter's map. Okay. Uh, uh-huh. Okay. Peter's map. So Africa, okay. And this is C. Understand the maps are not objective. Understand that maps are not objective. This is C. Okay. Okay, so 7.